Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and back with another coffee-infused winter scene. I just can't seem to get enough of anything coffee-related, and making coffee-themed cards and inspired by gift cards, all that fun stuff. So, I started off with the Honeybee Winter Wonder background stencils. I had shown these in the release and review video I'd done a few weeks ago, and lots of questions about these. So the easiest way to use them is to snip them apart. That is what's recommended because that gives you more versatility. They just come attached for the ease of packaging. So that's what I did. People had asked about like slipping the cardstock in between, all that kind of, and keeping them attached. Honestly, I just found snipping them apart is just way easier. So I just started basically from the top, like I guess you'd call it the last stencil, and started from the top and kind of worked my way down. I masked off the top portion of my card, which will be the back, with some Post-it masking tape, and then I am just blending on different colors of distress inks over just different stencils. I'm just kind of grabbing them and just kind of working my way down. With the very top stencil, I started from the top because I wanted that chip sapphire. I kind of wanted that darker sort of winter sky sort of a look. So I started with chip sapphire, then I added some shaded lilac, and then I worked on pumice stone, and then I'm going to add some ice spruce. Colors that I don't normally go for, but I was just kind of thinking about that look you get, like that kind of hazy background, a scenic scene like this, and what kind of colors would look good in winter, obviously. So I reached for colors I don't normally use. I only used one little blending brush. This is one of the Picket Fence blending brushes, and I would just wipe it off on my microfiber cloth in between colors, and it's good to go. So I just kind of kept building this scene. And the one thing I really like about this, and the fact that these stencils come attached, so you have like basically kind of the positive and the negative portion, if that makes sense. So here I went back and I took the top portion of the stencil and I placed it over this kind of, mountaintop or whatever, and then use that to add just some more ink and to kind of deepen that section. So I just kind of kept adding and working my way down with these colors. My final color was Stormy Sky. So I added that one, and again used the kind of opposite portion of the previous stencil to ink that up again to kind of pull that color, because I'm kind of thinking, this area would probably be water. You can kind of do whatever you want though. So at first I was a little bit like, I was like, how am I going to make this work and do this on camera? I might need to practice a bit first, but honestly, this was my first attempt. It just works. It's just easy. They took care of everything for us, so that we don't have to think, and that's what I love. So I did all that, and then my final little bit here, I just added some more of that pumice stone to the kind of bottom portion of the stencil. So once I've got my distress inks all blended on here, I wanted to add the snow, and there's 2 snow stencils in here, which I love. And what really kind of inspired this part was just looking at the graphic that Honeybee has of all these stencils layered together. And I really liked how one of the stencils of snow was lighter than the other, if that makes more sense. Like one was more intense, so it really gave it, again, that depth and dimension. So with this larger snow stencil, I just used I used a different little blending brush, but I used some white pigment ink. So you get a very, very subtle look. So the white pigment ink, and then you can either use like embossing paste would work really well, but I wanted something that would dry faster. So I just used some white gouache. And like white acrylic craft paint would work as well. I prefer gouache just because this washes out easier. Craft paint can have a tendency to dry even faster than this and be more difficult to remove. But my white gouache, 1, it was handy, and 2, I just find that it washes off my stencils and my brushes better. So I just used that same brush and I just kind of brushed over the white gouache over the stencil just to create a more, a brighter white snow on here. So went along, did all that, and then I just took the stencils and this brush just to my sink and just washed them out with soap and water, and they're good to go. So I'm gonna let that dry, which doesn't take very long. And while that is drying, I want to add the coffee theme, of course. So I pulled out one of my all-time favorite Honeybee sets, which is the Coffee Break stamp set. And I stamped the to-go cup from the set onto some Neenah Classic Crest 110 pound cardstock with some ink on 3 blackout ink. So just a Copic friendly black ink. And then really, really simple Copic coloring here. I did the standard Starbucks red cup for Christmas. And again, this is inspired by the gift card I'm going to use on the inside. People have been commenting and saying how they've been enjoying me making cards kind of inspired by gift cards. I don't know. It's something I've been doing for years. I just don't always, include the gift card in the video, but I need to do more of it because it's fun. It's fun, being inspired by different things. So I colored the cup, I colored the little band, the kind of the craft sort of color. And of course the green label. So once I've got that colored, I just used some cool grays for the lid and the bottom of the cup. And then once that's colored, I'm going to take my little white gel pen. This is the Jelly Roll Bold pen. And I am going to add some highlights to the lid and to the cup and whatnot, just to give it that little extra something. So after I've added my highlights, I die cut these with their coordinating wafer dies. I also die cut some white glitter paper with a couple of the Hill Borders wafer dies as well, just to start, creating my scene. And then I pulled some green cardstock out of my stash because you gotta have some green to go with the green label. And I stamped this is like one of my favorite sentiments from the Perfect Blend stamp set. So I stamped that with just that same white pigment ink that I used earlier, and I'm going to heat emboss this with white embossing powder, and it just says, "You warm my heart." So melted that, and then I'm going to die cut that with one of the new Banner Builder wafer dies from Honeybee. So after I've die cut that with the banner die first, just to cut, that nice perfect straight edge, I then use one of the little, would you call it a flag end? I always forget sometimes what to call it. Also, it doesn't help that I'm doing voiceovers in the middle of the night when all the kids are asleep and it's quiet. Anyway, die cut the banner and then add this little, notch end to create that little, flag end. So I just tape that into place with my washi tape and then run that through my machine so it's, perfectly cut. So after I've got that all die cut, I can start putting together my scene. So I didn't want to cover up too much of the background because that's what kind of the focus is. So I peeled off the memo tape, and like I said, that just protected the back of the card. So now I can just fold my card, standard A2 card, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm going to adhere those pieces of glitter paper that I die cut because I was thinking, snow drifts, and you've got this snowy winter scene, and then you're, this whole like scenario is building in my head. So I'm going to adhere that into place, and then I'm going to adhere my two to-go cups here, and that was also why I colored it red, not just because, the Starbucks red, but the red really pops against those colors that I chose for the background. So I'm going to adhere those into place, and then adhere the other little sparkly snowdrift as well. So get those adhered into place, and then adhere my little snowdrift. And I didn't pop anything up with foam tape. I did think about it, but decided to just adhere everything flat. This makes this a very, mailable, easy card in that sense. But if you did want to pop things up with foam tape and give it all that extra dimension, you totally could, and it would just give it, that extra something. So adhered my little snowdrift into place, and then I can adhere my sentiment. And I'm just using some craft tacky glue to adhere all this, especially on top of glitter paper. You always want to make sure you're using a really good, strong adhesive, because adhering anything over glitter can sometimes be tricky. So I'm going to adhere my sentiment into place, and then I'm just going to hold it in place and then flip my card front over, and then I can just trim off the excess with my scissors so that it's flush with my card front. And then I decided I needed to bring in just a little bit more red, just a touch. So rather than go through my stash and try and find red cardstock, I have the scrap of cardstock from coloring and die cutting those to-go mugs. So I'm just going to scribble on that little scrap there in the center with one of the Copic markers. And then I'm just going to run this little outline heart die that's from the same coffee break die set. And I'm going to die cut a couple of the outlines from that red, so it matches, of course, my coffee cups perfectly. And then I'm just going to hold these with my tweezers because they're very narrow, and add tiny little dabs of glue. Don't need very much. So I can kind of adhere those to be floating over my little coffee cups here. So the tweezers just give me that little extra something because I tend to get adhesive. And when I'm adhering over anything that I've used Distress ink on, I try to be a little more careful not to smear the ink or to smear the glue, because it can smear the ink, you know, because it can reactivate it. So I did that. And then I die cut some more of that same green cardstock, and I used a combination of the Scallop A2 wafer dies as well as the gift card slots. The one wafer die, it's like the third largest, I'm not sure, but it's in that set anyway, is the perfect size to use with the gift card slots, which I just discovered when I made this card. That made my day. That's so perfect because it just kind of frames the gift card slot. So I die cut that, and I'm just holding it in place on the inside of my card so that I can have a kind of rough idea where I want to place my sentiments. More sentiments from the Perfect Blend stamp set. So of course, got to stamp that because it's got to finish it off. So, you know, it says Coffee and Friends make the perfect blend. So I'm going to stamp those with that same black ink. And then once that's stamped, I can then adhere the die cut piece to hold my gift card. So you just want to make sure you put the adhesive on anywhere but those little notches that are cut out. You can see I'm purposely going around those. You don't want to put glue on that because that'll glue it down and then you can't put your gift card in there. So I just apply adhesive all around that, leaving those two little spots free of adhesive so that they can pop up a little bit, and then I can slip in my gift card. And now you can see how it's a very simple gift card, but it's just funny how it just got the wheels turning when it really is basically just a red mug. But then I was like, ooh, this would be a fun one to do if you add like little gold lights and stuff. But instead I did a winter background scene. But the gold lights did inspire me to add a little bit of bling. So I pulled out some iridescent crystals and just added just a few, just a touch to, you know, bring in that bling. So I kind of sprinkled those throughout my card front here, and I'm just going to adhere them into place with that same adhesive, just picking up the crystals with my jewel picker and then pressing these into place. Once I've got those adhered, this card is done. So really fun. I hope you guys got a good idea of how these stencils work. They create such a great scene, and you can mix and match and do whatever you want. Use different colors. It could be a spring scene. I'm pretty sure I did. I started talking about like, you feel very Bob Ross using these stencils. It's like, this is my sort of thing. So anywho, as always, there will be a link below the video to blog post with links to all the supplies used, so you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye!